How we respond to others when things go right can actually affect the quality of our relationships even more than how we respond in hard times. Hello, and welcome to Positive Lawyering, a series designed to help you harness science-backed insights from positive psychology to enjoy greater satisfaction and sustainable success in your life and law practice. My name is Jordana Confino, and I am delighted to be accompanying you on this journey. Building on the last video, in which we explored the significant and even life-saving benefits of connection, today I want to share with you another incredibly simple but powerful strategy for strengthening your relationships. In keeping with the general thrust of traditional psychology, relationship-based research has historically focused primarily on communication skills like empathy, conflict resolution, and how we can most effectively support others when things go wrong. But a study by psychologist and relationship expert Dr. Shelley Gable suggests that how we respond to others when things go right can actually affect the quality of our relationships even more than how we respond in hard times. Gable has identified 4 ways that we can respond to someone else's news, which are categorized based on where they fall on 2 axes: active versus passive, and constructive versus destructive. An active destructive response is known as the joy thief. This is where we quash the other person's good news by sowing doubts or concerns about the situation. For instance, if a friend were to excitedly notify you about a job offer they just received, and you were to respond, "Wow, are you sure that you can handle that? You're going to get slammed." A passive destructive response, known as the conversation hijacker, is more subtle. This is where we ignore the event and turn the conversation elsewhere. For instance, "Oh my gosh, I forgot to tell you about what happened to me today." Or, "Do you happen to know what we're having for dinner?" Moving to the constructive end of the spectrum, a passive constructive response, known as the conversation killer, involves the communication of unenthusiastic support. This might entail an understated, "That's great, congrats," or sending a standalone thumbs up emoji. And finally, there's the active constructive response, which is known as the joy multiplier. This involves responding in an interested, enthusiastic manner, such as, "Wow, that's amazing! When did you find out? When do you start? Congratulations!" Unsurprisingly, Dr. Gable has found that when people regularly respond to their partner's positive news in an active, constructive manner, their partners report feeling closer to and supported by their partner and more satisfied with their relationship. Equally unsurprising, Gable found that destructive responses, whether they're actively destructive or passively so, are not conducive to strengthening the relationship. But the most notable finding of Gable's study is that passive constructive responses, for instance, a lackluster "cool" or "happy for you," can be just as harmful to a relationship as blatantly negative ones, because they communicate lack of interest and care even when that's not the responder's intended sentiment. Moreover, the way that partners respond to positive events impacts the health and longevity of their relationships even more strongly than how they respond to negative events. This is really important information, especially given that in today's world, where we're all constantly tethered to our phones and our email, it can be so easy to just respond passively when someone approaches us with good news, without conveying the understanding, caring, and validation that would both make the other person feel wonderful and strengthen the relationship. So with Gable's findings in mind, I invite you to close your eyes and call to mind the last time a friend or loved one shared a piece of good news with you. Now I want you to really visualize in your mind how you reacted. Did you give them your full attention? What did you say? Did you ask any follow-up questions? What was your tone of voice like? What about your body language or facial expressions? Do you remember making eye contact? Could you sense any change in their happiness or excitement following your response? And finally, knowing what you know now about active constructive responding, is there anything you'd do differently if you had a chance to go back and respond again? If so, go ahead and let yourself imagine that interaction again from the start, this time playing out your revised response in your mind. I'll admit that when I first learned about active constructive responding, I found myself mentally replaying and picking apart dozens of instances in which I wished I'd responded more positively. But I then realized that I'd by no means missed the boat and that it was entirely within my power to course correct going forward. And an opportunity quickly arose one morning when I was exercising as my husband approached to share some positive feedback he'd received after an interview. Now, this was by no means huge news. My husband hadn't received an offer, he'd just learned that he'd made it to the next stage of what seemed to be infinite rounds of interviews. And I'll admit that a big part of me wanted to shout, "That's great, tell me about it later," and keep on exercising. But then I saw his excited smile and I realized that I was at a crossroads. I could either heed my instinct and pass up this opportunity to connect, or I could slow down and forego a few minutes of my workout to help my husband bask in his exciting news. I opted for the latter route, and I will just say that the way that his eyes lit up when I squealed with delight and asked him to recount exactly what the recruiter had said left me really happy with this decision. So in the upcoming week, I encourage you to be on the lookout for other people's good news and to prepare yourself to actively support them when things go right. I hope you will join me for our next episode. Until then, take care, friend.